Welcome inside Gillette Stadium, everybody. My name is Mike Petraglia, joined as always by Patriots expert columnist for WEEI.com, Christopher Price. All right, Chris, let's get to the business of the week. First of all, the NFL trading deadline coming and going on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Bill Belichick telling us here on Wednesday that he really didn't pay much attention to the trade deadline. He was too worried about getting ready for the Washington Redskins, and that's really the way it is around the NFL. Head coaches worry about the on-field product, the player personnel, and the GMs around the league worry about the trade deadline. Nick Caserio did not pull the trigger on any trade to bolster the Patriots secondary. There were rumors, of course, of Jason McCourty possibly joining his brother Devin here in the Patriots secondary. Jason McCourty, obviously the corner from Tennessee. Did not happen. Were you surprised nothing happened?
No, I wasn't surprised. No greater experience in American professional sports has more promise and so little payoff as the NFL trade deadline. I think that there were no moves of substance made on the actual deadline day. The Vernon Davis trade was made the night before by Denver. That was the only move that I think might have some sort of impact when you're talking about the rest of the 2015 season. So when you're looking at the Patriots right now, they're going to head into the 2015 season, the second half of the 2015 season, with basically the same looking roster that they've had at this point. You know, they did make those moves earlier in the year, going out and getting guys like Mike Williams, Jonathan Bostic. Those are the moves that they're going to stick with at this point. It's also important to remember that they're not going to be completely stagnant when you're looking at the roster. This is a roster right now that is going to get back Brian Stork. It is going to get back Brandon LaFell at 100%. On the defensive side of the ball, Dane Fletcher, Chris Jones as well. Those guys are going to be coming back. They're not sexy deadline deal acquisitions, but they are going to get a bit of a boost from new faces.
Chris Jones and Dane Fletcher, as you mentioned, their PUP clock, as we say, did start ticking this week. They hit the practice field on Tuesday in full uniform, so that means Patriots have 21 days to activate them off PUP. It only took Brandon LaFell 1 week. We'll wait and see what happens with Chris Jones and Dane Fletcher. Now, we stick with the trade deadline deal focus here and talk about the Denver Broncos. You mentioned Vernon Davis. They acquired him. They did not get something they were really looking for, and that's Joe Thomas from the Cleveland Browns, the all-pro left tackle. I think it's just as important who the Broncos didn't get as a matter of fact who they did acquire in Vernon Davis.
Yeah, because they're already down 2 left tackles over the course of the first 7 games. Ryan Clady, Ty Sambralo, I believe is the pronunciation of the rookie's name. That offensive line, the Peyton Manning's blind side is hurting a little bit, and it's going to be interesting to see if teams are able to exploit those vulnerabilities. I want to see in a couple weeks when the Patriots go into Denver how they end up playing that thing, because Chandler Jones is playing at a very high level right now, and I think that's one of those matchups that can be exploited if you're the Patriots on that Thanksgiving weekend.
All right, Tom Brady spent some time here on Wednesday talking about his improvement in his deep ball and throwing deep in the Patriots offense. Obviously, Tom Brady would like to see more of a vertical production in terms of moving the field, a team down the field. He said to us on Wednesday, it's great to have those 12 and 13 play drives. It's also great to have the 1 and 2 play drives when you need them to strike quickly.
Yeah, you really do. And look, the strength of this New England offense, we've mentioned it several times over the course of the 2015 season, is that short and intermediate passing game. Those quick passes, Gronkowski, Edelman, Deion Lewis. I think they're going to get a little bit of a different dynamic once LaFell gets back up to 100%. I think that's going to change things just slightly, because he's not a traditional deep threat in the mold of a Randy Moss, Brian Timms, that kind of guy. But when he's healthy, he's shown himself to be a consistent mid-range to deep ball receiver. And so I think you can push the limits a little bit once LaFell gets back to 100%. But yeah, I mean, right now the strength of this passing game is the short stuff. Right. I think that you want to play to that. I think to try to get outside that comfort zone a little bit, there are times where you want to do it. You want to take a shot downfield, and they seem to do it at least once a game, whether it's Matthew Slater or whoever is back there. But, you know, you really want to play to your strengths, and your strengths is a short passing game.
Hat tip here to Phil Perry of Comcast Sports New England. He was the one who brought up to Tom Brady in the Wednesday press conference that Brady's almost at 50% completing balls downfield of 20 yards or more, and Brady didn't even know that. And Brady ended that discussion by saying, you know, I'm good with the wedge, but I could be a lot better with the driver, and if I can improve the driving game and finding the fairway, I think it's going to help the team quite a bit. Now, you had an interesting piece this week, Chris, on talking to Kirk Cousins, the Washington Redskins quarterback, his quarterback coach, and how he is working on his mechanics and how it's paid off.
Yeah, the quarterbacking guru Jeff Christensen, who works with Jimmy Garoppolo, also spends time with Kirk Cousins, the new Washington quarterback, the guy who won the starters competition this year. He is flying Christensen in every other week into D.C. They sit and they watch film, and the film that they watch more than anyone else is on Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers over and over and over and over and over again. One of the things that Christensen hit on was the fact that there is improvement in Cousins' game. It's not readily apparent when you look at the bulk of his numbers over the course of the year, but there are things that he's seeing over the course of the last 2 to 3 games that Kirk Cousins is doing that he necessarily wasn't doing over the course of the first 3, 4, 5 games. And so there are improvements there. They're getting him on the run. They're moving him around a little bit, but it's going to be interesting to see this week a guy who really is looking to do whatever he can to imitate, to follow the Tom Brady blueprint, to see if he can execute that. Field behind us on Sunday afternoon against New England.
Now, we have not spent that much time talking about the X's and O's of the Washington Redskins, in part because a lot of people don't give the Redskins much of a chance. Last time these two teams met here at Gillette Stadium, it was 8 years ago, and obviously that was the 16-0 season, and the Patriots obliterated the Redskins and Joe Gibbs that year. I believe it was Gibbs' final season, 52-7. A lot of people think the same thing's going to happen this week, even with the Redskins getting Deshaun Jackson back as a deep threat. You think?
One of the things that Bill hit on in the press conference was, look, they led the league, I think it was last year, in big plays, in plays of 20 yards, explosive plays. I think that there's a lot to like about where Washington is going on both sides of the ball. They're not nearly where they want to be if they want to be competitive in this one at this point. I don't think it's going to be too far removed from the Jacksonville game. I think we're looking at a situation here where New England, playing at home against a weaker Washington team, should be able to dominate on both sides of the ball. I'm not going to say it's going to be a 52 to whatever blowout like we saw with the Jaguars earlier this year, but it's probably going to be in that same neighborhood.
You know what, Chris? It's remarkable how year after year we always say the Patriots never lose these games, and they rarely come close to losing these games.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at a New England team right now that's 7-0. They are qualified. I think we can sit here and say, look, they're a good team. They're one of the best in the league. Good teams don't lose games like these. And over the course of the last dozen or so years, I can count on maybe one hand where they have lost games like this, these trap games. This game right here, I don't think the Patriots are going to end up losing this thing. I think they're situated on both sides of the ball very, very well, especially when you're looking at some of these matchups. I think this is New England's game, and I think New England ends up winning this thing by at least 3 touchdowns.
And, Chris, they're pretty healthy, relatively speaking. I guess we have to knock wood and see if that continues for the Patriots the rest of the season. But if they're healthy and at full strength, you really can't imagine the Redskins giving the Patriots much of a scare in this one. We'll have complete team coverage here on Sunday afternoon. Yours truly, along with Christopher Price, on hand to cover the Washington Redskins. Their 3-4 hopes, as they are just a half game behind the New York Giants, believe it or not, in the NFC East against the 7-0 New England Patriots, running away right now with the AFC Eastern Division. Inside Gillette Stadium, he is Christopher Price. I'm Mike Petraglia, WEEI.com.